It's the Sports Peninsula podcast. Coming up, we're previewing the top 16 picks in June 27th NHL Draft. We'll look at who the prospects are and where we think they may land. We'll talk about the recent trades that have led up to draft night. We'll also discuss what the Detroit Red Wings may be posturing to do, not only at pick number 13, but in free agency as well. Now, here is your Sports Peninsula team.
And welcome to the Sports Peninsula podcast. We're back to the mock drafts. We're back to drafts. Not the NFL draft this time around. Have a draft around behind my shoulder here on the old TV here with the second round of the NBA draft popping up. But we're going to be talking about the NHL draft, specifically the first 16 selections of the NHL draft. Detroit Red Wings hold the 13th selection. And to do this is our great co-founder and content creator, Dave Druzinski. Drew, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm good, Coach. Man, it's good to be back. We've been putting on some reruns the last couple of weeks, but we needed a little rest. We need to recharge the batteries a little bit, and I think we're good to go now. But yeah, it's good to be back talking draft stuff. That's our foundation.
Yeah, it is. And we've done things with the Red Wings before, and we've done things in the first, 5-10 picks of the NHL draft. And, lo and behold, these last several years, the Red Wings have been part of the NHL draft lottery to have zero success, nonetheless, in that draft lottery. However, we've acquired some picks that we're going to start seeing come to fruition. And, much like the Major League Baseball draft, and really in many ways the NBA draft, the NHL draft, it doesn't always elicit a ton of guys that are going to play right away, does it, Drew?
No, very, very low percentage, And I'm not 100% convinced we'll even see one this year, but we might.
So, we're talking about a prospect pool that does not necessarily harbor the elite talent that we have seen with the Alexis Lafrenières, the Connor McDavids, the Nate Bedards, these guys. We don't have a player like that per se in this draft. However, there are probably some foundational guys once they're able to cut their teeth a bit. And season themselves physically and become more mature as professional hockey players. Pretty impressive talents.
Yeah, it's I wouldn't say it's not a deep draft, but I don't think there's. I know there's not a Bedard or a Celebrini in this draft. But there's very good talent, and we were talking right before we started recording. Unless you really, really like a guy, to trade up in this draft, if you're only looking to get into like the 6th or 7th spot, if you're down where like Detroit is at 13, I'm not sure you're not going to get the same value at 13 in this draft, and that's a good thing. So it would surprise me if a lot of teams that are in that mix try to move up a little bit. Then there may be a team that just hypothetically, like an Edmonton wants to trade to the 6th spot. Okay, well, that makes sense. But for a team in the top 16 here to go from like 16 to 10 or from 13 to 6 or whatever, you'll see there's a lot of parity.
Yeah, and I know there's been some work done on greatly on your behalf, and kind of culminating some consensus in regards to where a lot of the prospect rankings kind of fall, and they're really all over the place. Where in years past, at least the first 3 or 4 seem to be pretty well spoken for. But we're looking at teams in most cases that really their prospect pool is fairly shallow. So obviously, I know that kind of speaks to how drafts operate and how they're configured. But let's take a look, Drew. Let's get right into things here and take a look at our first overall selection in this draft, and that's going to be by the New York Islanders. And you have a guy coming from the OHL, Coming actually from the state side here in Erie, Pennsylvania with the Erie Otters, and that's defenseman Matthew Schaefer. Talk to us a little bit about the Islanders' would-be selection here, Drew.
Yeah, now here's one guy who has a shot potentially of being on the club this season because he's got decent size. I mean, 6'2", 185, so he's not slight. He's got a build. He can move, coach. Oh, he can skate. But he had a collarbone injury last year. He suffered in the World Junior Championships, and so he only played 17 games, but he still had 22 points. He offensively, he can do it all. He's a quarterback, number one, power play unit quarterback. He can kill penalties if need be, certainly, but it's certainly offense is his game. But he does play a mature defensive game, so that's why I think he's got a shot of being there. Offensively, he's definitely going to be good enough. He's got talent. He's got a high ceiling, but he's got to be ready defensively. So, I know that I don't know the Islanders cap situation that intimately, but you hear Noah Dobson's name being thrown on a lot, certainly around these parts here in the Detroit area. We're hearing his name a lot. We're seeing trade scenarios. He's an interesting player. He's a really good defenseman. But some of the hypothetical trade packages I've seen, Coach, involved Jonathan Berggren, which seems like Berggren's involved in any trade package. He's got value. It involved a couple first-round picks, but it also involved Nate Danielson. And I was like, that's a lot to give up. Now, Nate Danielson hasn't played a game in Detroit yet, but if that's the price tag, coupled with the fact that you're going to have to pay Dobson big money, and even with all those moves, you're not really taking much off your cap. So that would be Steve Yzerman would have to be all in on Noah Dobson. I'm sure, there's no doubt Noah Dobson's a very good hockey player. I'm not saying that, but I'm not sure Detroit could give up that kind of a package for a guy to make that money. I would rather see them, quite frankly, go after Aaron Ekblad in free agency, Coach.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about the New York Islanders, since, really John Tavares has left, and which has been quite some time now. They have not been the most relative of the contenders. The Rangers have long been the team that people kind of keep their eyes on. They're the MSG team, even though the Islanders, had that great run, 40, 45 years ago. Really, it's been kind of a ghostly existence. So, I mean, this team, gets a foundational piece in Matthew Schaefer. I think that would be a good thing for them, certainly. So, Islanders are on the clock. They are a little bit familiar with this territory, so we shall see where they go. But Matthew Schaefer, Sports Peninsula Podcast, has going to the Islanders. And at that number 2 pick, Drew, with San Jose, we're going to the other coast now.
Yeah.
And a team that's been picking high lately, and really, with Schaefer, it's this young man that's kind of been the consensus 1-2 in a lot of cases, but we're staying in the OHL, coming into the great Sports Peninsula, the Saginaw Spirit and their center, Michael Misa. Talk about Mike Misa here, Drew.
Yeah, Memorial Cup, too. It's an incredible year, and he's a big part of it. I did not see any what I would call relevant prognosticator or publication have the draft going any other way except for Schaefer at 1 and Misa at 2. So these seem pretty locked in. But yeah, he's only the 8th player in OHL history to receive exceptional status, and that's to join OHL at age 15. Now, I believe the last guy we talked about that had that was Joe Veleno, Coach. So
Quebec Major Junior, but yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, outstanding talent. Will he keep getting better? Because I was thinking about this, Coach. In third grade we took the California test of basic skills. I had a 12th grade reading level, Coach. I should have been Doogie Howser, but as we all know, as I got older, everything kind of came together. But my point is, Michael Misa is very talented. But if he can keep getting better and take it to another level, this guy could be really something. He's got good size, 6'1", 182, 62 goals, 134 points last year. He's a very, very good skater. he's got a high ceiling. We could be seeing him in the top 30, I think, easily every year if he reaches his potential. And what a great pick. I mean, best on the board at this point. That's who you take.
Well, I mean, you put up numbers like he had last year in the OHL, and you're scoring 60 plus goals north of 130 points. Those are some, those old time elite numbers that we saw, the great players of our youth generation, put up in the NHL even. That's something that has stayed consistent with the great players of those lower levels. He certainly has produced that. The exceptional status does not get put out there very often. At the very least, I think you see Michael Misa as a player sooner rather than later. With obviously some seasoning, needs to do so still physically. Will get his opportunity to play in the NHL for the San Jose Sharks. At the NHL level too. So. They get a score with this type of guy, and not quite the Bedard level Lafreniere type though, Drew.
No, but he's in the neighborhood of Celebrini, who he's going to be a teammate with, and there's your number one guy. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's possible they could put them together, but that's two very talented forwards, and to me, I would rather see them flourish apart, at least. At even strength, because one's going to get the attention, the other one's going to have an opportunity, so to speak. Like in football, you can only double team one guy, and then after that, you're on your own. So that's the situation there. That's a good thing for San Jose.
Sharks be put out one heck of a line that way.
Oh yeah.
Sure. In at number three, we go into the Chicago Blackhawks. And this is an organization that's lived a charmed life in the NHL Draft lottery. They have gotten their fair shake in the top 5 and at the top even. So I mean, this is a team that they have really acquired their picks since their heyday and dynasty run when Patrick Kane was suiting up for the Blackhawks, along with John Tays and all those great players, and the Duncan Keith era and the Brent Seabrook and all these great players that Chicago had during their heyday and Stanley Cup runs. Those days are long gone, and they are now once again on the flip. They're going to go across the pond overseas to the Swedish Hockey League, and they're going to look for a forward there by the name of Anton Frondell. Drew, talk to us about this Swedish forward.
Yeah, he's a talent. I mean, he's really considered the top European skater in the draft in multiple sources. He had 25 points in 29 games, and I'm not going to say I'm an aficionado following the Swedish Elite League, but that league it's a low scoring league, and to have nearly a point per game in it, that's impressive. He's got some compete. He's got a good strong build. 6'1", 204. He's shown a good ability to score. I like him, and I think he hustles. He certainly forechecks, he back checks, but he's got a real good scoring touch. This is a guy I'd like to see. I'm certainly no Chicago fan, but if I'm a Blackhawks fan, I would like to see him in the AHL for one season, just to get a taste of the small rink. You know what I mean, or whatever. I'm not sure if he's committed anywhere. I didn't see it, at least. If I didn't, I missed it. But at the end of the day, Frondell, I think he could use at least a year in the AHL in order for him to really be able to step in and be his best. But wow, he's going to join Connor Bedard. If not this season, it'll be next season. Chicago's getting better, like you said, Coach. You brought up Kane and Tays. That's exactly how it happened, right there. Lottery.
Right. And you go to the Swedish league and get those elite skating players and those tremendously skilled players that come from there. Typically we see a lot of times these guys take a little bit more seasoning, and they take another year or even 2 years before they decide to come over and then get that year in the AHL to season themselves to the smaller rink. It'll be interesting to see if Anton Frondell is able to beat that curve and get up here sooner rather than later, or are we not going to really see him in the United Center skating with the Blackhawks for 3 or so more years? Time will tell. but he is that skilled type player. Always kind of tough to gauge numbers sometimes with players that come out of the Swedish league because their games played are so low. But you do make mention, he had 25 points in 29 games, roughly a point a game, at a very, very high level, playing against very, very good players in Sweden. In many cases, 6-7 years older than he is. Yeah. So, Anton Frundell is a great prospect. We shall see if Chicago takes him and how he would do where he does land. But moving on to our fourth selection, we are going, to our new squad here, the Utah Mammoth. They are picking at 4. And you are talking about Caleb Denoyer out of the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League out of Moncton for the Wildcats, a guy that pumped up 84 points in 56 games. Talk to us about Caleb Denoyer, Drew.
Yeah, he's a talent. I mean, that's an impressive record there, 84 points in 56 games. Now, again, on the flip side, I'll say that Philip Zadina had very similar numbers, if not more points, in his last season in the Quebec Major League, which was really what sold everybody. And certainly his shot was good, very good, but that didn't pan out. But Denoyer, I think, has a very, very high ceiling. I mean, he's a solid two-way player. Now, it's easy to say, yeah, he's a plus 51 at 84 points in 56 games. Well, I mean, Red Wing fans, take a look at your top 5 players in the scoring, and you'll see they're all minus 12, 14, 16. So, they were on the ice more times than not, and certainly in 5-on-5 situations where they were victimized. So that's why that plus 51 is really impressive, Coach. And to know that he plays a solid two-way game and knows how to score, he knows how to find teammates. Caleb Denoyer is going to be a real good hockey player. Likely will spend another year in junior or possibly in the AHL, but yeah, real good talent.
We've seen the Vegas Golden Knights out west here come in as an organization and just be amazing. Make these Stanley Cup runs and get the Stanley Cup, and they were really founded and developed so well. Utah, not unlike Vegas, has an opportunity to kind of hit the ground running. Seattle has been a very, very good team since they have entered the league. And we've had these teams out west kind of redevelop out here. Does Caleb Denoyer allow Utah a player that could be there this year? Or like you said, are we seeing a guy that's going to be seasoned a little bit longer?
I mean, he's got the talent, but I mean, I don't think they need to rush him. Utah's a pretty good hockey club right now, and to be able to add him, like maybe not this year, but next year, I mean, that's something, and that'll help give them an opportunity to gauge who they might need to, because of the cap, let go, because they've got Caleb Denoyer coming up, so that would help them a lot, obviously.
Well, sooner rather than later, we'll see Mr. Denoyer in the NHL. Moving on to number 5, the Preds, in the Nashville. They're kind of had a glory run kind of go by now, and they are in reselection mode and trying to build themselves up into a playoff contender. Here, they go out of the NCAA here and select a guy from one of the great programs, not the national championship program.
No,
at Western Michigan, but a great one nonetheless. In the Boston College Eagles, you have the Predators taking James Higgins, a smaller forward. We've been talking about 6'2", 185 pounders. Really, this guy's 186, but at 5'10". Talk to us about Mr. Higgins.
Yeah, Coach. He's plays for BC, and he played at BU actually in his freshman year. But he can skate. He's a number 3 skater according to Central Scouting this year. And he really had a strong showing in the World Juniors for Team USA. He's really an elite playmaker, and his skating potential is, I mean, seriously, it could be next level. He can skate, and I'll tell you what. I mean, I'd almost say I'm I wouldn't compare his game to Dylan Larkin, but I seen like with the skating ability and the offensive touch, a year, he's already been in the NCAA a little bit here, so he's got a shot to possibly stick and stay. He's got talent. To have a motor like that and be able to skate, that you make your own opportunities at any level. And James Hagen's a good hockey player, coach.
Now, is he slated to return to BC next year?
Yeah, I believe so. But I believe so. So, like I said, that would be one more season, and then the year after, he's likely a Predator. Then, that's why. But Dylan Larkin only spent 1 year at U of M, and then he went right to the Red Wings, which was impressive. Hagens has a very high talent level in terms of how he skates and can make plays.
Now, does he participate in the U.S. national development team or no?
I'm not 100% on that, to be honest with you, Coach. To be totally honest, I'm not sure.
Just wondering. Typically we have seen that organization and what they have been able to produce at the draft has been remarkable this last 10 or so years. And it's really been the who's who out of players coming out of the United States. Typically are affiliated with that organization, but James Hagens is really affiliated with one of the great college hockey programs in the U.S. So we shall see where James Hagens lands. If that is in Nashville, indeed Nashville, down the road, they're going to get themselves one heck of a skater. And at number 6, Drew, we head to Philadelphia. And Porter Martone, right winger, big right winger. They like those big, aggressive power forwards in Philadelphia. It is a long-running tradition. It's just kind of who they are. Going back to the OHL out of the Brampton Steelheads, Porter Martone, big 6'3", 204-pound physical forward. Sounds like a Philadelphia Flyer to me, Drew.
Yeah, you nailed it right there. That's exactly this is a Philadelphia Flyer power forward right here. Physical, great shot, good hands, great size. 37 goals, 98 points last year. I mean,
power forward numbers.
6'3", I like that. I'm sure they're probably going to get him beefed up to 220, and then there's a guy who's going to be like not quite as big as a Timmy Kerr. I remember Tim Kerr back in the mid '80s. There, man, he was something else. He, unfortunately got injuries, but he was something. But he's got Martone is a talented hockey player. He's going to get an opportunity. It's like in this area, you'll see a lot of times where a player will get on a kind of a dress rehearsal in the league for 6 or 7 games, but if they're not quite there, they can send them back to junior before that 8th game. And then, so it's, I could see a Martone getting an opportunity like that. You say he is that talented. He's a good hockey player. To be physical, and he's got to be able to show he can hold up. He'll hold up, but that he's got that coordination to hold up in year one. I think physically, if he can prove that, he's got a chance. But I think he would be better off in playing another year at junior if he's eligible, or just going to the AHL.
Yeah, it seems like his scoring those numbers, albeit very good, very promising. His physical ability, I could see him being a guy that potentially could even slide up and be selected by one of these other teams, a little higher, just because of that size and that frame and that style still lends so well to today's NHL to be a big physical, but elite skater with great hands. Those are tremendous tools to have. However, I think you bring up some good points.
You said you could see him sliding up, and I'm glad you said that because I was checking out kind of the high and low points I've been seeing. Yeah, he's been as high as 3. He's been as low as 9. So there you go. You could get Porter Martone at 9 potentially. We kind of split the difference here in essence, but yeah, that's where he's sliding right now.
No, I mean, no, he doesn't have Michael Meese's, 62 goals and 134 points. I mean, he's also not a center. He's a right wing. However, you season him a little bit longer in OHL if he gets to come back to Brampton and play another year. And you get him maybe a couple of years of minor league hockey. You could get yourself a guy that could be a 20-plus goal scorer year one, and working into that 30-35 goal towards, who knows, 70-80 points, and being a physical presence for the Philadelphia Flyers. I'm sure they would take that all day long. We'll see where Porter Martone lands, but I really like where you're thinking with this one, Drew. That one really is kind of tailor-made.
Coach Thomas will love that.
No, for sure. At number 7, the Bruins, staying out east. Another team that has had a lot of success this past decade. Are finding themselves kind of retooling here a little bit. Probably pretty bittersweet watching Brad Marchand do his thing for the Florida Panthers this past Stanley Cup playoff, and play so well for them. That's now a bygone era in Boston when he was there, and all those great Boston Bruin players, and there's those Stanley Cup runs that they had. So building that back up, they're going to stay into the OHL. OHL is really producing in this draft thus far, and we have the Bruins selecting a Bulldog, a Brantford Bulldog by the name of Jake O'Brien, 6'1", 177-pound center. Drew, talk to us about Mr. O'Brien. That's a great name. You had this Porter Martone going to Philadelphia, a big 6'3", 204-pound power forward. You got a nice Irish boy by the name of O'Brien heading to Boston.
Yeah, it's perfect, huh? I love the new the new old logo. That's the logo we had in the 80s there when we were enjoying hockey, and yeah, I'm glad they're bringing that back. They unveiled the jerseys. It's pretty cool. It's a good video too. Michael J. Fox, Cam Neely, pretty cool. But yeah, Jake O'Brien, Rookie of the Year in 23-24. He had 32 goals and 98 points himself last year. Great playmaker. He's got a scoring touch. He's competitive, and he's just got a great hockey IQ. Man, I tell you what, Boston, they're going to let him percolate at least a year. But, man, to be able to get a Jake O'Brien in Boston and to be able to hopefully get him with, with Pasternak, look out. He's a talent, man. If he can hit his ceiling, Coach, that's what it's looking like. And Jake O'Brien, he's, surprisingly, this is where you kind of see a bit of a drop. Where Jake O'Brien, this is really as high as I saw him was 6, and then I saw him as low as 11. So mostly he's up near that 6 spot. So he's pretty well thought of, Coach. I would say he's definitely going to be either anywhere between 6 and 8, maybe a little higher even. Who knows if someone really likes him, but good hockey player.
Yeah, I see a Sutterman. That's a 98-point guy, 32 goals. He's certainly got that playmaking skill, and he did so in the OHL. Not unlike Porter Martone, even though he is a center, O'Brien is a center. It does look like he could use a little bit more time to come into his own and really gel, so he can be that kind of high output forward, top 12, top 2-line center that you would want to have in Boston. We talk about having him play with David Pasternak. That would be great and all that. And he had to climb the ladder pretty fast, wouldn't he, Drew?
Yeah, it'd have to be at least, probably a couple of years at the most to really maximize that combination. But yeah, but Jake O'Brien's got the talent. I'd like to see a 190 next to those labs there. That's probably
certainly that's got to come with the territory. That size and strength and that physical ability. Keep enhancing that and developing that. That's stuff that's in development now while he is with the Brantford Bulldogs. However, yes, like you said, that really does need to kind of take shape. That and his scoring touch. Those two things come together, and Boston's got themselves a pretty talented Bruin.
Yeah.
Moving over to the 8th selection, we are going back out west to one of our would-be newer franchises, one that hit the ground running, very, very similar to, Vegas, who's been an amazing story, really one of the best NHL probably organizations that there is. The Seattle Kraken have also been very, very successful. Had a little bit of a hiccup this past year, and we're a little bit further down the standings, but they're going to go to the Western Hockey League in our mock draft here in these top first 16 selections. They're going to go take somebody right from their right out of Seattle for the Thunderbirds here of the Western Hockey League. Going to get a big defenseman, Radom Murka.
Yeah.
6'5", 218-pounder. Talk to us about Mr. Murka here, Drew.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I've seen him slide to 11, but he's really falling in at 8. That's been the peak. So this is really where he's at. And man, to be at the 8th pick and to get a guy this size, I mean, he's already at 218 at 6'5". So he's on his way there. So I mean, Radom Murka, he's got an opportunity if he can show out in camp. But I would rather see him in the AHL for a year, but he wouldn't have to travel too far. And it's kind of funny how this has shaken out. O'Brien going to Boston and Murka playing in the WHL, right there in Seattle and stuff like that. It's been it's interesting how it fell in line. He's a right side defenseman with great size, 35 points as well, coach in 43 games. He can lead the rush, and he's really responsible in his own end. As a defense, you never want to rush a defenseman. And Moritz Seider played a year in the AHL, so that's how I'm looking at that. And Moritz Seider was the 6th overall pick, and he will and they're a good organization, obviously, the way they've hit the ground running, like you said, as an expansion team. So they know what they're doing. They're going to keep. Murka's going to have at least a year in the AHL, but wow, that's an impressive talent to add at number 8.
And you know what? 6'5", 218. That's going to get you to climb that ladder and into the NHL a lot faster. He possesses the physical frame and size that you want to have today. So I mean, you said he can really get up into the fray and skate and carry the puck and control the puck and do some different things. Get him up there soon, man. Have him climb that ladder. There obviously are some things that has him kind of hemmed into this 8 through 11 type area. Whether or not there's another gear that he needs to reach with his skating or his defensive capabilities need to develop a little bit more in order for him to be NHL level. Then they'll get there. But again, I think your selection process here is very poignant and very has a lot of common sense capability in how to do it, because this could be a guy that they could kind of work with and have even played another year in the minors or another year in the juniors rather.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I really, for Murka, I would be surprised if he didn't go to the AHL.
He's of that physical frame. He doesn't maybe need to play in the Western Hockey League, and I may be remiss for saying so because we're so familiar with the OHL. Our teams that we would go to watch, that you and I have personally watched. We've watched that level. It's of the Canadian Hockey League. It's the OHL. The other one that we have more familiarity with is the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. Just seems like we got Nate Danielson out of the Western Hockey League. He's a Brandon Wheat King, I believe. We certainly have drafted players out of the Western Hockey League, but of the 3, it just seems like to me that's the greenest of the 3 leagues. And it would probably be. And I may be remiss for saying so, but I think it would probably be in his best interests if he could get himself into the AHL.
Yeah, I think part of it is we don't. It's hard to see the games here. That's for sure. We never really get to see them. But I think you're right in terms of the first round talent that comes right out. Typically we're seeing OHL. We're seeing OHL, Quebec Major. Yeah, it's that WHL traditionally has been the league that didn't.
They have first rounders every year.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we're not. Yeah, it's just like I agree with you though. I mean, hell, even a couple of years ago, the U.S. developmental team had
a great run of players. Yeah,
the first 5 picks. I mean, my gosh, it comes and goes. So, but no, traditionally that's how it had been. It's just the numbers. It's not it's a great league. And even we got Sebastian Cossa out of Edmonton there, so that's and we're still hopeful for him. So let's see what happens. No, he's a good talent.
Absolutely. Well, let's take a look at pick number 9 as we come back over this way, and a team that seems like they have been picking in the in the lottery and the higher parts of the NHL draft for quite some time. So an organization that has had some success and has perennially is very well followed. Western New York loves this team, just like their football team. But the Buffalo Sabres here have really been in have been in NHL purgatory for a long, long time. And here they are going to tap into that OHL, and they're going to go up to the Sioux and get a Sioux Greyhound by the name of Brady Martin, 6 foot, 186 pound, two-way looking forward, 72 points in 57 games. These might be like a little plain Jane, Drew. But what are some of the things Brady Martin really is? Because he doesn't seem to be the statistical juggernaut that maybe some other players that we've talked about is.
Yeah, on paper, yeah, I would agree, but he's probably the most complete forward. He's a leader. He's a leader with the Sioux. He was a leader in juniors for the World Juniors for Team Canada. Great work ethic, and his hustle, his motor, and his ability to score. And pretty good size. 6 foot 186 there. And that's not bad at all. I mean, that could work right now, to be honest with you. Probably would like to see him in the AHL for a year as well. But at the end of the day, man, Brady Martin's a nice hockey player.
200-foot game is going to get you playing in the NHL real fast. If you're going to be committed to your own end and doing the things to generate, breakouts and attacks and, back check and play the puck and help cut angles down and do different things and get in the corners and be a great face-off player and do all those gritty things that helps win NHL hockey games. You and I have talked about the construct of the Florida Panthers and how they've been so successful. And Brady Martin seems to be a guy of that ilk. Now, is he there yet? No. Is he going to be a 50-goal scorer? No. Is he going to be a 100-point guy? Not likely.
No.
However, is he going to be? Could be an 80-point guy, which is point per game player that has a C or an A on his chest rather soon and helps turn your fortunes around. It does appear to be that he could be that kind of guy, right, Drew?
Now, yeah, you're right about that, Coach. And also,
I say that we like hearing this. In 4 picks from now, I would not mind seeing Brady Martin fall there.
Oh no, not at all. Unfortunately, he's the one exception here. I don't see him going any lower than 12. But he actually, there were a couple that had him going as high as 4. So that's how talented. Like you said, that 200-foot game. That's what gets you in the league quick and makes you a success.
He's not looking for pucks and breakouts.
No,
he's out there generating the breakout or cultivating the breakout. So
he's a nice player.
Well, hey, Brady Martin, whether he goes at 9 or he goes a little sooner, somebody's going to get a player that it does look like will get there sooner rather than later. Heading to the double digits now, getting closer to that Red Wing pick at 13. Here we have the Anaheim Ducks selecting at 10. Another organization that had a real nice run probably 15 or so years ago. They were a Stanley Cup contender, really, kind of year in, year out. But they are finding themselves in a rebuild type phase, doing a little better here, picking at 10. But speak of the devil, the Brandon Wheat Kings are producing a big centerman by the name of Roger McQueen. And you have the Ducks taking McQueen here at 10, 6'5", 198-pound Wheat King. Drew, talk to us about Roger McQueen.
Yeah, I've seen him as high as 5 and as low as 12.
Because that size.
Yeah, that size exactly. And but he had a back injury last year. You don't like hearing that, but he should be ready for camp. So it didn't sound like, or look like, or sound like it was anything serious. He had 20 points though in 17 games. He has a complete offensive game. So he's not just a sniper or a playmaker. He can do it all offensively. I think what you'd want to see from him is to go in the AHL and show that you're willing to back check and forecheck real aggressively. If he can do that, he's going to be on the Anaheim Ducks real soon. But wow, you got to love that size at center. That's impressive. He's got a high ceiling, but he's got a lot of things have to play out. He's got to put some more weight on and get that coordination and be able to handle the physicality of the NHL, which I know he will. But will he do it to your point as a point per game guy, or as something else? At a 10th overall pick, you'd like to think I'm getting a point per game guy eventually, especially a centerman.
Well, that would be the goal, but I mean, you get him, another 10 pounds, bigger, stronger, strengthen that core and these hips and that groin and those legs, to generate more torque and to have a little bit more pliability and endurance, take care of those injuries. You get a guy that kind of can build into that mold and become a little maybe, quicker in that frame. He's going to be, just to be the ability to kind of get open and to do things, will be there for him. Definitely like his size and frame. Again, 6'5" doesn't coach itself. That's a natural gift. And we've seen in this league, if you can skate and you have size and you have speed, you have a very, very good hockey team. So we'll see if McQueen, where he goes, and and if he becomes a Duck, what shall happen down the road. But yeah, like you said, probably a couple of years away here in regards to his ability to physically be where he needs to be. And at 11, we have the Pittsburgh Penguins, and we have a guy that's we have another team that we have Sidney Crosby, kind of the he's now aged quite a bit. You have Genny Malkin still there. Pretty amazing that they've had these two legends there that have won the Stanley Cups. However, that era has kind of gone by them. You see the Washington Capitals still very, very, very highly ranked and a team that's at the top of the Eastern Conference. The Penguins here were in the lottery, and you have them taking I guess a legacy player here in some regards. It's Victor Hägglund out of the Swedish league. He from the same team that we saw a player taken earlier in our mock. Yeah, when Anton Frondell was selected by the Chicago Blackhawks. You have his teammate Victor Eklund being selected. He's the younger brother of William Eklund of the San Jose Sharks. Talk to us about Victor Eklund here, because that's an NHL sounding name, Drew. Victor Eklund.
And it's a name actually starting with Victor Eklund. Red Wing fans take note, because any of these guys now could be at 13, and this is the first player that I've seen to go as high as 13. Victor Eklund. Now 5'11", 169. Right away I say, we got to put some weight on there. And I'm sure he will. But yeah, it's in the genes, man. His brother's William Eklund, very good hockey player. He's got a great hockey IQ. He's got good offensive skills. 38 points in 60 games. Again, in that league, that's impressive. But even more impressive to know that Frondell was nearly a point per game, even though he missed part of the season. But this high compete level here, and the Penguins have 2 picks in a row, Coach, because they had made a trade with the Rangers. And forgive me, hockey fans, I'm off the top of my head, I don't remember the transaction, but the Rangers ultimately said that we're going to give you this pick right now to make the trade complete. So they have 2 in a row. They'll kick it off with Victor Eklund. He's got a real high ceiling. There's concerns about his size.
Yeah, I mean, and that diminutive stature. He's a European player. Our skaters tend to be towards that 200-pound caliber. We typically, they're 5'10" to 6 foot, 6'1", 200 pounds. You get into that 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2", 6'3", 6'4" range. It's 200 plus pounds. Yeah. That's kind of the North American player by and large. The European player, especially forwards, we do see more 5'10" to 6 foot, 170-ish pound players. That's just what's produced here. We've seen these type of players play a lot and play very early in the NHL. It does seem, though, just by looking at the kid, in his face, he's got some physical growth that he needs to experience yet. And, some of that's just going to be naturally, I think, too. Yep. This is a guy that could be 10 pounds heavier that way rather quick. Well, now we're talking about a 5'11", 180-pound player. which is, really, pretty status quo size-wise.
Yeah.
Got to see what he does with the skates. But yes, he does seem like that kind of complete player that winds up in the NHL. Right, Drew?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about that. It's just a matter of, is he going to be a top six guy, a power play guy, and give you 25 to anywhere from 20 to 40 goals. And you're hoping to get a lot of offense, and he certainly has a resume. He looks good.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that kind of, speaks to, who we, are able to, to kind of look at here and kind of mold what he could look like here in the future.
Mm-hmm.
But in at 12, we're getting close now, Drew. I mean, we just had the Detroit Pistons select, Shaz Lanier. Very, very good. Very excited about that from Tennessee.
Okay.
Very, very happy to see this. That just took place behind us. I know that has nothing to do with this podcast episode. And
but you said you called that one.
Yes, that's gonna be a good one. We're gonna get a good grade for our pick there. But we'll talk about that later. We want to talk about Mr. Jackson Smith. Out of the Western Hockey League, out of the Tri-City Americans. It's an American team out of the Western Hockey League. The Penguins getting their second of 2 first-round selections. This time they go with a defenseman, 6'4", 199-pounder. This one is not as physically diminutive as Mr. Eklund's 5'11", 169-pound frame. He is headed to Penn State. He's going to come to the Big Ten and play some hockey. Talk to us about Jackson Smith, Drew.
You hope he falls to 13.
I like the way he looks.
He will do real well for himself having a year in the Big Ten Conference and NCAA. That's going to help a lot. 54 points in 68 games as a defenseman. He's got the offensive tools, and like I said, he checks all the boxes with his size and his shot. He's definitely a top 4 pair guy. And definitely a power play quarterback, perhaps on unit 1, but unit 2 for sure. Just needs to show consistency on the defensive end. And I think playing against the higher, more, adults, in the NCAA, it's high caliber hockey now. It's what, the NCAA is well thought of. We saw James Hagens. We've seen the University of Michigan, that one year, dominate the draft in the top 5 was with Owen Power and those guys. Owen Power was the first pick. But yeah, Jackson Smith, man, I'd like to see him in Detroit, but in this scenario, he's going to the Pittsburgh Penguins.
He's 6'4", 199 pounds, and his trajectory going through the Western Hockey League, going to go play in the NCAA. His skills obviously developing still too. It's not quite where it needs to be.
Yeah.
So we are talking about a prospect that is some years away, but a guy that's probably going to be 6'4", 210 when he does come to the NHL, and will be ready to go there. And really anymore, unless you're some sort of really highly skilled puck moving defenseman, it's a bigger man's position, a bigger athletic man's position, a guy that can truly skate. So excited to see where Jackson Smith lands. But yes. The time has come, Drew, to talk about what the Detroit Red Wings are going to do. Could it be a Jackson Smith? It could be. Could it be a Victor Eklund? It could be. Could it be a number of different players? It certainly could. But you, Drew, you have the Red Wings staying on the defensive side of things and fortifying this blue line with an OHL player from Barrie, out of the Barrie Colts. And that's Kayshawn Aitchison, 6'1", 199-pound pounder, bit of a bruiser out of Barrie. Talk to us about Kayshawn Aitchison, Drew, and why he would make such a great Red Wing prospect.
Well, tell you what, the Red Wings lack grit. They've got tough guys. But they don't play a tough game. And they need physicality. And in this case, I see a feistier version of Nicholas Kronwall in terms of size, and the willingness to hit. Now, the difference here is Aitchison will drop the gloves. I think there's something to be said about that. As long as you bring talent to the table, when you get 59 points in 64 games as a defenseman, nearly a point per game defenseman in the OHL. You've got talent. It's got a good shot, and I tell you what, whether it's Jackson Smith or Aitchison, I'd be really happy. Eklund's got a huge upside, and we're going to talk about a couple other guys, like you said, that wouldn't mind having him in Detroit. But yeah, Jackson Smith would be the guy. But then for me, if he's gone, Aitchison definitely checks the boxes, man. He's a good player.
A change agent, and we understand, Kayshawn Aitchison would not be in Detroit next year. He wouldn't be in Detroit probably in the next 2 to 3 years. Yeah. But he does possess that kind of edge to his game. It's something that we sorely lack here. It seems like heart, to be honest with you, and that's we've not kidded around. We've done some Red Wing content as of late, and this is the type of player that I think the Red Wings need to lend itself to a little bit more. This grittier, more spirited player of a bygone era. Yes, a lot of that kind of stuff is kind of the bravado of the past. However, it still has its place, and we need to be able to set tones here in Detroit. Mm-hmm. And just by all accounts, Kayshawn Aitchison, I am not the biggest connoisseur of OHL hockey. I have the NHL Network. I see it a little bit. If I'm following hockey, I'm following the NHL, or I'm following the Western Michigan team and college hockey. But he does sound of the type of player that can help set the tone. And I would be all about that, Drew. I would be all about that coming here. I'm all for this pick. I like what you've done here. If this is how it fell out, I think we have a guy that could, add to a blue line that really is going to be almost spoken for 3 or 4 deep here soon. In regards to some long-term playability, we've got a couple slots left. Could he fortify it to be a championship caliber defensive group? I'd love to be able to see that. I hope we can see that, Drew. Like a lot of these players that we've talked about, but Kayshawn Aitchison, I see a need here in Detroit too.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point, like the kind of that core. You've got Sider, Edvinsson, on the squad already, and
Pellica.
Pellica. Sandin Pellica, and then Aitchison down the road. So in 3 years, maybe that's your top 4 core defense. Wow. And then, oh, by the way, maybe you went and signed Aaron Ekblad. Wow. Hockey Town's back if that happens. Now that's 3 years down the road. There's talent in the pipeline. I think they're going to be better this year. But this pick excites me. I saw him as high as 9, coach, but is only as low as 16. So he's well thought of. And if I would be really, like I said, be very happy if he fell to Detroit. I feel like he's more NHL ready than Jackson Smith, but Jackson Smith's got a higher ceiling just because of his size. Yep.
Well, let's take a look at 14 here, Drew. We're going to move on past the Wings here, and excited about what we've done here. And the Columbus Blue Jackets are selecting just behind the Wings at 14. And again, a team that's kind of been scratching and clawing at this thing for a while now. Trying to make a semblance of things. They're a well-regarded organization with strong fan base. Ohio has embraced the Columbus Blue Jackets, but they're still kind of trying to figure things out. Here, they go to the Western Hockey League, to the Everett Silvertips, and get a big left winger, a good-sized left winger by the name of Carter Bear. Now, Bear suffered a pretty nasty Achilles injury from the sounds of it, Drew, but talk to us about Carter Bear and what he could bring to the table down the road for the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Yeah, I tell you what, the injury obviously that's nasty, that's bad, but he, it was a partial tear in March, and it's likely he's ready for the start of the season, which is likely still in junior if he has eligibility, or he would go to the AHL for the Blue Jackets. But I'll tell you what, Coach. I've seen Carter Bear quite a few times being at number 13. He's got offensive talent, and the only reason he's being projected to fall here at 14 is because of the injury. But his upside, he's already got pretty good size, 6 foot, about buck 80. That's where you want to be. It's a left wing, but man, he can score, and he plays a fast game. He can skate. So if he can recover for the injury, and by all accounts, he's going to. Nice hockey player. Be very happy if he's a Detroit Red Wing. I would be. But I agree. I'd rather have the defensive prospect over the forward in this scenario based on these guys. But Carter Bear, very good hockey player.
What's the likelihood, or is there? I mean, obviously there's a likelihood, but do you see a distinct possibility that injury costing him, some draft status, or will it have cost him to about the pick 14? Are we talking about a guy that would go higher had he not had this injury?
I personally think he would have went higher. I personally believe that. Saw him going as high as 10 in the rankings I looked at. So he's definitely in Detroit territory there. But I saw him where he wasn't even in the top 16 in some cases. So that injury is definitely playing a factor. Think about, I guess I look at it this way. He's if he was 3 years away, he's 4 years away. If he was 2 years, it's an extra year.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say it's not lost because he's going to be playing. It just won't be at the NHL level, but he will be playing and getting better. So it's not like he's out for a year and just not playing at all. So Carter Bear, like I said, if he's a Red Wing, that would be nice.
As long as he can preserve that skating ability and that doesn't become inhibited by or obstructed because of that, restricted because of that injury. That'll be the biggest thing there.
Now, one thing I would say, it doesn't deter me from him, but if you take him, I mean, he's a nice hockey player, but he doesn't have that nastiness in the corners. He's not going to give it back. You know what I mean? He's very talented. He's kind of more like a Dylan Larkin type player. He could be of that ilk, which is great, but you've got to be able to have those other guys that can bring that grit to that team. They're going to mix it up and be able to hold people accountable. So based on that, I'd be happy with Bear, but then it's like, okay, well then there's another plan somewhere else because that's not his game, and that's okay, but just that so fans understand that's just not his game.
Right. And at 15, we have the Vancouver Canucks selecting Lyndon Lekovic, another left winger, out of the Western Hockey League, out of the Moose Jaw Warriors, a team that we're familiar with. So a guy that's staying out west here. 6'4", 200-pounder. How is a guy like Lekovic going to help Vancouver get on the other side of this draft slotting and be a playoff team once again, Drew?
Cool. I tell you what, this guy's a good hockey player, and he's got the size already. He's got an edge to his game a little bit. 58 points in 47 games. He had a broken collarbone. Not worried about that. It's obviously he missed time, obviously, but he's going to be fine for camp. Likely he can shoot and pass, and the size there. He's got to show. I think this is a situation where he's got to show in the AHL for a season at least. I can play a two-way game. I'm not a liability defensively out there. I'm defensively responsible, and by the way, I can score. I might be a point per game guy. So yeah, Lakovic's a nice hockey player. Vancouver, good. He kind of fits their MO. They like bigger guys. I remember even that those 02 days when I was Morrison and Bertuzzi and Naslund. I mean, those are some big boys, and the Sundin twins were the Euro twins on the second line. So they were a tough group, but he fits in nicely with the Canucks.
Yeah, and that point per game in 47 games. Obviously, want to grow into that. Want to make sure that we don't have an injury, an injury riddled type player here either. So we want to be able to protect that and get him a little bit stronger. It does appear he's got about 3 or so years ahead of him, be able to get there. But definitely he's got that frame once again. 6'4", 200-pound, lot to like to work with there, Drew, and a guy that can score some points. With our last selection here that we're going to cover here, just heading out here, whiz by those Montreal Canadiens, the fabled organization. They are going to kind of stay within their own ranks here a little bit and take a person, a Black Quebecois French Canadian by the name of Justin Carbonneau out of Blainford Boisbois Armada in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. Talk to us about Justin Carbonneau and what he brings to the table.
Now, I've seen him going to Detroit on a few occasions in the rankings, and mostly to Montreal, though. It seems like it just was a natural fit. I don't believe he's related.
We've been pretty namely in regards to prototypes of people that belong in certain organizations, and you've done it once again here, Drew.
I honestly is how it just worked out. I'm not. I wish I could tell you I was Kresgen or someone like that, but I'm not. No, it worked out that way. Yeah, I don't believe he's related. I didn't see anything, and I just shows I'm green. And if he is, I saw nothing. But the namesake Guy Carbonneau makes sense, right? This might be your favorite prospect, though, Coach. Former football player.
Yeah,
he's aggressive. So it kind of reminds me of reminds me of like a Luke Glendening type guy. But he had 46 goals last year. Quick release, good hockey IQ. He could be a Red Wing. He could be a Red Wing. That's as high as I saw him go, though. But I didn't see him drop out of the top 16. So he's slotting in right between 13 and 16.
Well, he's got he has that little bit of high competitiveness. He's a multi-sport athlete. Like to see that. I don't care what sport it is that they're being drafted in. When you played multiple sports, you have different competitive angles that you bring to the table that way. But yeah, he certainly does possess some, those kind of like, you wouldn't call them soft skills in the NHL. They'd be hard skills, but he certainly has them. So, I mean, yeah, I'm intrigued by him as well, too. And as a guy that could, climb that ladder relatively quickly and become an NHL player. Drew, overall thoughts of this group that we just talked about?
Real solid. I think it's one of the safest top 16s I can remember. Since we've been covering over the 8 years that we've been doing this. I don't think we maybe went back 6 years for hockey, but just a real solid group. I no goaltenders, but that's kind of the norm as well. But this year we're surprised a lot of WHL players we're seeing this year. So the ebbs and flows of where the talent pools are. But yeah, that's what I would sum it up.
Yeah. And I'm excited. I'm excited by Carbonneau, who we just featured. I like Aitchison a lot. Smith sounds like an intriguing player. There are a couple of other guys I wouldn't mind seeing slip a little bit and become Detroit Red Wings. I tell you what, we're at 13. Could we get a player that does come up relatively soon and we see that certainly could happen. We deserve that to happen, to be honest with you. Yeah. I think, we are an organization. It's the one organization that's struggling to make the playoffs. We have the Detroit Lions had the best, a regular season in the NFL this past season. They're a playoff team. Our baseball team is the best team in Major League Baseball, far and away, and they look like they are a playoff team. Our basketball team had the greatest turnaround in NBA history in many regards, and is now a playoff team. This is the organization that we need to see kind of get into that realm themselves, and one that is certainly proud. It gave us so much for a quarter century of playoff runs and significant playoff runs at that. How far are we away in Detroit from that, Drew?
Well, I'll be honest. I think there's a good potential for them to start it this year and start making the playoffs. I expect them to make the playoffs this year. I'm excited about what could happen. Just looking at knowing I've been, like I'm Kresgen, but Ekblad's been the guy I've been looking at since about January. I would just start combing the list. Who's going to be out there? And it's like, oh, Bennett and Ekblad. And this was before they got Marchand. So you had that in the mix too. They have Seth Jones through trade as well. So they can't pay them all. And I was looking at the cap. I'm like, well, yeah, Ekblad makes sense, and the Red Wings could give Aaron Ekblad like $9 million a year, possibly, or at least the Moritz Seider $8 million. That would for 6-year term, and Ekblad's 29, so that's a good contract. Yeah, and they better do it this year. Well, they better do it this year. I'd like to see them do it this year because the CBA that looks like it's going to be there's an agreement already, but it looks like there's going to be a reduction in the contract length, where it would go from 5 to 6. So I believe instead of 6 to 7, where hypothetically the Red Wings could sign Patrick Kane to a 7-year contract, but no one else could. Now it'd be reduced to 6, and everyone else would be a 5-year deal. I don't think that's a bad idea. Then for them to come to an agreement like that quickly, I think it makes a lot of sense. Why would the union fight that? That's an extra year early of free agency, unrestricted. That's a beautiful thing. That my guy's going to get his money, and the player's happy, the organization is happy, because they're going to be paying a second contract to a guy that's 28 versus 29. It makes a difference. Apples to apples, that makes a difference.
Yeah, and all parties involved there could be pretty happy that way as well.
Yeah.
Well, we shall see here. We have that draft starting here. What's the date, Drew? Are we seeing?
June 27th, tomorrow, Friday night. I believe 7:00. It's going to be it'll be fun.
Round 1. We'll get round 1 tomorrow, and then we'll have the remainder take place Saturday. And is it going to go Sunday too, or just Saturday?
Just Saturday. They rip through it pretty quick, and it's only 7 rounds, so they'll get through it all through Saturday. It's about from 12 to 7 typically.
We shall see. We have the NBA draft finishing up today. They kind of dovetailed them pretty nicely here. We'll have the NHL draft on Friday and Saturday and see who we get. And we'll talk about that down the road. We're going to see, and talk about our prospects and our draft haul that we are able to bring. Going to bring you a little bit of an update and see how things are down on the farm with the Detroit Tigers as well. Some future content. We're going to go over some prospects, top 20 prospects, and see look at a timeline of how they're performing and kind of how their development track is looking. When we could expect to see him over in Comerica wearing the Old English D, or what kind of prospect they may be in order to fetch us some guys, some reinforcements to see if we can make ourselves a World Series champion once again. So until next time, this is Andy Shield speaking on behalf of Dave Druszinski Drew, and this is the Sports Peninsula Podcast.
This has been the Sports Peninsula Podcast. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Follow us on YouTube so you don't miss an episode at the Sports Peninsula Podcast. You can also follow us on Twitter X. Just look for @SportsP Podcast, and follow us to keep up on sports around the great state of Michigan and beyond. You can also catch our show every Saturday night at 7 p.m. on the ESEN Network channel as part of Roku. When you want to hear all about sports in the great state of Michigan, there is only one, Sports Peninsula Podcast.